plugs right there. Look at you guys. Snuggled up, ready to go. Okay, everybody. This is going to be a quick show of a few submit problem. I don't think I'll be able to get to anyone's questions in the chat. I'm just going to go through. I'm just going to go through the FINRA response to Congress. Editorialized right now. It is garbage, and we're going to rip this thing apart. If you can, send this video to members of Congress in the Banking and Finance Committees, both House and Senate, because I'm going to point out where FINRA is purposefully omitting information, where they're purposely obfuscating information, where they're outright lying to Congress and the public at large. Okay, shall we get started? Should we do an intro? We'll do an intro first, and then, yeah. Okay, so, I should have set this up ahead of time, but I didn't think of doing that. Bam. Okay, so, the FINRA response. Dear Congressman Norman, thank you for the opportunity to respond on behalf of FINRA to your December 22nd, 2023 letter addressed to me and Gary Gensler, Chair of the Securities and Exchange Commission, concerning the Metamaterials Incorporated corporate action to distribute NextBridge Hydrocarbons Incorporated common stock and market activity in the Series A preferred shares of the Metamaterials that traded under the symbol MMTLP. Okay. We appreciated the opportunity for FINRA officials to meet with you and your staff throughout the preceding months. We have responded to every congressional outreach to us regarding this matter, and we will continue to be available to answer further questions. In response to congressional and investor inquiries last year, we also published 2 frequently asked questions, facts, to provide investors the accurate information about trading activity in MMTLP, including short sales, and the circumstances surrounding the NextBridge MMTLP corporate action and trading halt. They did. We ripped that apart too, because they lied a whole bunch of times in those frequently asked questions. FINRA is a not-for-profit self-regulatory organization, SRO, responsible for regulating its member broker-dealers and their associated persons pursuant to the Securities Exchange Act 1934. FINRA is dedicated to protecting investors and safeguarding market integrity in a manner that facilitates vibrant capital markets. Operating under the oversight of the SEC, they're trying to be like, it's the SEC's fault. We are charged with adopting rules consistent with the Exchange Act, examining our members for compliance with securities laws and rules applicable to U.S. broker-dealers, and enforcing compliance where necessary. FINRA has regularly examined itself by the SEC, and our rules generally must first be filed as proposals with the SEC, published for public comment, and then approved by the SEC before becoming effective. FINRA also is subject to oversight by Congress and recently testified before the House Financial Services Committee at a capital markets subcommittee oversight hearing. Some investors continue to question FINRA's reasons for imposing the halt, and we continue to observe inaccurate information circulating in some social media about trading in MMTLP and the trading halt. While we discuss these questions in greater detail below and in our frequently asked questions, it's helpful to first highlight several key facts about trading MMTLP and FINRA's role. FINRA's decision to halt trading was due to clearance and settlement concerns in light of the structure and timing of the corporate action, or so they claim. As a result, ongoing trades after December 8, 2022 would not be settled by December 12, 2022, or predictably thereafter, risking significant investor confusion and harm. Contrary to some theories circulated on social media, FINRA did not initiate the halt because there was a problem with a share imbalance and the counterfeit shares, or because of short positions held by hedge funds. FINRA also did not provide advance notice of the trading halt to broker-dealers, hedge funds, or any other market participant. Okay, already right here we have some huge problems in their claims right here. So they're claiming they did not halt due to naked shorts existing, counterfeit shares existing, looking at the level 2s and seeing that, in 50 trades the price would be over $1,000 a share. They claim that it's because of the way that NextBridge decided to stop trading and then issue new shares, that there would be a problem with distributing shares for anyone who purchased after December 8th. Here's the big issue for FINRA in that claim, is that the brokers themselves were going to position close only on December 9th and 12th before trading stopped. FINRA keeps pretending that a bunch of investors are going to jump into this thing on the 9th and on the 12th. they wouldn't be allowed to. It was only going to be forced closure by the brokers of those with short positions who are going to be doing the buying on the 9th and the 12th. That's it. There was going to be no problems with settlement. It was just going to be closing short positions so that folks who did not have actual shares in their accounts would get actual shares. So this whole first paragraph of them like giving their little timeline is complete BS, and they know it. They absolutely know it, right? They did not halt because there would be a problem of distribution. Their halting resulted in a problem of distribution because none of those short shares were closed, which means to this day, there are hundreds of millions of shares that cannot register because the brokers don't have them. So they're lying, big fat giant lie right here in this first paragraph. Bullshit, FINRA. Fucking bullshit. All right. Next paragraph. Investors have expressed confusion regarding whether metamaterials need to approve the commencement of trading MMTLP. Generally, an issue approval is not needed for a security to trade outside of a securities exchange, i.e. over the counter. Although an issuer may take steps to limit such trading, the issue of whether a security can be publicly traded is governed by the Securities Act and SEC rules. For purposes of these provisions, it does not appear that metamaterials took effective steps to restrict public trading in MMTLP. Okay. When they filed for the merger, they said, hey, we're going to issue these preferred shares. We call them MMAT1. And they're going to be preferred shares. They're going to go out to everyone who had Torchlight, a one-for-one basis. And it will represent the ownership of the assets of Torchlight. And we're hopefully going to sell off the assets and you'll get a cash dividend, blah, blah, blah. In that, they said, these shares shall not be traded. It was right there in their language in the forms filed with the SEC for this merger. They said, these will be untradeable. Boom. Done. No market for them. They don't need to do anything else. They established that these are untradeable shares. The SEC approved that. And FINRA went, we're going to trade them. That's basically what happened. So, yeah, John Berta, who is former CEO of Torchlight, he's already submitted documents showing that they filed all the proper paperwork to make sure this thing didn't trade. Okay. Assigning the MMTLP symbol upon request of a broker-dealer was standard practice given the circumstances. No, it's not, because it wasn't supposed to trade. And it wasn't the request of a broker-dealer. It was requests of two market makers, GTS and Concord Genuity. The broker-dealers did not request it. Two market makers did. Okay. Inappropriate to further market transparency with security trades OTC. FINRA broker-dealers are required by FINRA rules to request a stock symbol, if one does not already exist, and report the trade. Then they must electronically report the price and the size of the execution of the transaction, which FINRA disseminates to the public to provide transparency. This is what occurred in the case of MMTLP, given that the trade had been executed and the company had obtained a unique identifier for the security. FINRA assigned the MMTLP symbol in October 2021. The MMTLP symbol was not assigned in connection with a Form 211 submission, contrary to some claims made in social media, and trading in MMTLP began based on Form 211 submitted using fraudulent information. Okay, Concord Genuity and GTS did submit a Form 211. We've seen those forms. They've popped up all over the place. In it, they included 10-year-old information about the company, and they also said, oh, the company's cool with us trading it. So when Metamaterial contacted FINRA, like, whoa, why is this thing trading? We did not approve this. FINRA's like, tough shit. It's trading. They had filed documents with the SEC saying, we don't want this to trade. It shall not trade. And FINRA was like, well, these two market makers are trading it already, so I guess it's trading. And that's when the problems began. FINRA has reviewed its members' U.S. trading activity in MMTLP, including short sale activity, and has found no evidence there was significant naked short selling. I hope a creditor see me do the jerk off motion right now. With some social media sources referring to it as counterfeit shares. In MMTLP, the total number of U.S. short positions identified at FINRA members represent only a nominal percentage of the total shares issued and outstanding as of December 12, 2022. Further, U.S. reported short positions at FINRA members dramatically decreased leading up to the last regular day of trading MMTLP. In sum, FINRA is not aware of any data that supports social media claims, significant naked short selling, or counterfeit shares. Okay. surveys have been getting done, collecting verified information as to who has how many shares in what brokerage and registered with AST. With just TradeStation, a middling little broker platform, just 88 users were surveyed. 88. And TradeStation was already 204% over the number of physical shares they had in their possession. So, like, the number of FTDs, FINRA claims further on, just TradeStation outstrips the number of FTDs that FINRA claims were in existence on the last day of trading MTLP. So they're full of crap. They are full of garbage. NextBridge released a press release saying, hey, we've got proof that shorts have been requesting more shares than what you claim were short. We have problems with people getting their shares for over a year now, people being able to direct register their shares because the brokers don't have them. Because think about brokerages like Webull have just lent everything out and they cannot physically send shares to AST anymore because they don't have any more. So everything in those accounts is a counterfeit. Everything. We're talking hundreds of millions of them. So FINRA's been like, well, we looked and we couldn't find any. And the self-reporting of short interest says there wasn't very many. It's self-reporting. We're not asking you to look at the self-reporting and go, oh, I did a good job. We're asking you to go to each and every broker and say, hey, how many shares of NextBridge do you have in your accounts? That's what we're asking. We're not asking for you to like check and see what the self-reporting of the short sellers are, because the short sellers lie all the time. We know that. We know they make crap up to be able to follow through on reg show requirements, which are just bullshit little loopholes for them to jump through. So anyway, all right. FINRA cannot perform a certified audit and consolidated count of shares. Yes, they can. They can literally go to the brokers who are the members and say, hey, tell us how many shares you have in your accounts. So when they say they can't do it, they can. They can easily do it. FINRA's regulatory authority does not extend to domestic or foreign non-member entities. We're not asking you to go to non-members. We're asking you to go to brokers who are members in this country and ask them how many shares they have. So they're already like doing doublespeak and trying to misdirect what the requests are. They're like, well, we can't count the stuff that doesn't belong to our membership. We're not asking you to count the stuff that doesn't belong to your membership. We're asking you to count the stuff that does belong to your membership. Okay. Entities that could act as custodians or agents holding securities for others, including foreign registered broker dealers. We don't care about the foreign registered broker dealers. Just talk about the ones in America first. Further, the regulatory tools available to FINRA do not provide the data that would be enabled to FINRA to perform a share count. Yes, it does. Like, you can literally tell your members how many shares do you have. Example. The Consolidated Audit Trail, electronic blue sheets, and FINRA's trade reporting facilities do not contain information about securities positions as described in more detail below. Cool, release them and we'll find out. So if you say that doesn't include this stuff, then what's the big deal? Just release them. Release them and we'll have some forensic accountants look at it and tell you if you're full of shit or not. Because you can see who is trading what with whom, and you can backtrack that and see where positions originated from. So if you're looking at the blue sheets and you're seeing that a market maker for some reason is selling tens of millions of shares it does not own and never goes out and purchases, then you know that naked shorting is happening, right? The blue sheets would tell you that. So why don't you release those blue sheets to us? Maybe try doing that. And we can look at it for ourselves rather than just trust your word on this. Okay, the transfer agent retained by NextBridge would be the next best source of information regarding record holders in NextBridge common stock. We don't want the record holders of the legit shares of common stock. So here they are doing doublespeak again. They're totally doing a misdirection, being like, well, AST should have that information. AST doesn't have information on naked short sellers. You do. AST only has records of how many authorized shares are in existence. That's the only thing they have. They'd be like, hey, we received 167 million shares from the company. We gave them to direct register people, and then we sent out the remaining to the brokers. That's the only information they have. They have no idea how many shares are claimed to be owned at the brokerages. So FINRA is completely doing doublespeak to try and confuse anyone in Congress who's not too familiar on this stuff. And I'm here pointing out exactly where they're doing that. Okay, NextBridge registered the issuance of its common stock in connection with the NextBridge MMTLP corporate action with SEC, making NextBridge an independent public reporting company whose shares are freely tradable under federal securities laws. However, today it is very difficult for investors to trade these shares because NextBridge has not taken the necessary steps to support the development of a secondary market. Unless NextBridge takes steps that would include supporting trading in its common stock, trading will continue to be difficult, including trades to close out short positions. Okay. The only reason it's difficult for trades to happen, to close out short positions, is because FINRA canceled the last 2 days that are going to be dedicated to nothing but closing out short positions. But they're trying to blame NextBridge for this. Like, NextBridge, they stopped allowing trading on their stock. No, there were 2 more days left. Brokers had issued notices saying, hey, we're going to go to position close only, and we're going to close out these short positions. And then FINRA canceled those last 2 days so that the short positions could never be closed. So, but FINRA's trying to blame NextBridge for this. Like, oh, NextBridge should have thought about this before, we halted their trading and made it so they couldn't do this. This letter makes me so angry. Okay. Investors' use of social media to make investment decisions is an area of concern for FINRA. Yes, because it's social media's problem that FINRA halted trading and other regulators, particularly because this information may be incomplete, misleading, or false. FINRA has observed a significant amount of social media activity regarding MMTLP. For example, social media mentions of MMTLP rose from approximately 40,000 between January 1st, 2022 and October 6th, 2022 to approximately 110,000 between October 7th, 2022 and December 8th, 2022. Before and since the MMTLP halt, FINRA and other regulators have published investor education materials to help investors avoid fraud and make informed investment decisions. Okay, this has nothing to do with fraud and nothing to do with being uninformed on an investment position. It has everything to do with the fact that FINRA halted trading for the 2 days that were meant to close out the short positions. It's people talking about a stock and wanting to invest in a stock, talking about the pros and cons of a stock. That's one thing. But if they are not to blame for you halting trading for 2 days on this stock. Before then it goes to not being able to trade anymore. The entire point of those last 2 days was for the position close only of those brokers. Period. And you halted it so they didn't have to close. Amazing how that happens. Including warning investors of the risks inherent in using social media as an investment tool. FINRA will continue its efforts to educate investors about these and other risks. FINRA's authority does not cover firms that are not its members or individuals who are not associated with such firms. We don't care. We want you to talk to the people who are your members. Broker-dealers, market makers, hedge funds. Talk to those people who are members of FINRA. Federal or state authorities would typically have jurisdiction over situations where other individuals, including management or other insiders of an issuer, spread inaccurate information regarding securities on social media or otherwise, or engage in potentially fraudulent manipulative schemes with respect to securities. We're not talking about fraudulent or manipulative things. We're talking about the fact that there was naked short selling to the tune of hundreds of millions of shares, and you did nothing about it, and you stopped the brokers from being able to do something about it. You are misdirecting everybody right now. Absolutely misdirecting them and be like, it's all a fraud scheme because we don't have anything to do with that. No, you have something to do with making sure FTDs are closed out and making sure that broker dealers report responsibly about what failure delivers are, where shares are coming from, and who has what. That's what the blue sheets are all about. Okay. FINRA refers any such misconduct deserves to federal state authorities as appropriate. We're not talking about that. As you note in your letter in 2022, the SEC filed a complaint alleging 8 individuals violated federal securities laws by engaging in manipulative activity on social media, including activity related to Membergil's predecessor, Torchlight Energy Services. This has nothing to do with at all what they halted. There were some pump and dumpers in the days leading up to the merger, and those folks got busted. But it has nothing to do with what the halt was about. And they're misdirecting right now. Totally. It'd be like, Citibank gets busted for spoofing, $80 billion in trades on Amazon stock. And then FINRA's response to that is like, well, there were 8 guys who did a pump and dump on Amazon stock. Like that has nothing to do with the crime that Citibank just did, right? They're pointing at a completely different direction here. Below is detailed information regarding FINRA's role in the OTC equity securities market, its actions in connection with MMTLP trading halt, and the NextBridge MMTLP corporate action, as well as information regarding trading activity in MMTLP. FINRA is not able to respond on behalf of other parties who may have relevant information, such as other regulators, transfer agents, issuers, their management, or other private parties. Yes, but you can request information from them because they're your members. They're your members. Overview of FINRA's role regarding the OTC market. Dude, you're whining too much. I'm not going to give you a treat right now. I'm reading my thing. Under this regulatory framework put in place by the Congress and overseen by the SEC, FINRA's statutory obligation in support of the SEC is to examine and enforce compliance with the federal securities laws, the rules thereunder, and FINRA, and certain other rules by member broker-dealers and their associated persons. This mandate includes overseeing member broker-dealers when they facilitate investor access to the OTC market. However, brokerage services provided by firms or for customers remain largely governed by contract. Okay, so if we want to know how many shares of a particular security are held at a broker and brokers fall under you, why don't you ask them how many shares are there? Hey, Fidelity, how many shares of NextBridge do you guys have in your customer accounts? And they'd be like, click, clack, click, clack, clack, beep, 25,400,000, whatever the answer would be. Okay. Unlike securities exchanges, which are also SROs, FINRA does not operate a market and does not establish listing standards for issuers. FINRA also does not have authority to regulate or examine the conduct of non-members, including companies that issue equity securities that trade in OTC, such as Metamaterials or NextBridge, or their affiliated persons. Okay. Metamaterial and NextBridge did not issue a security to trade on the OTC. They didn't. They issued a security and said, this shall not trade. And then FINRA, at the request of GTS and Concord Genuity, was like, hey, we'll start trading this security. So FINRA does not have the authority to regulate or examine the conduct of non-members, including companies that issue equity securities that trade in the OTC, such as Metamaterial or NextBridge or their affiliated persons. No one affiliated with either of those companies established a market to trade these securities. They said the opposite. They said this shall not trade, period. FINRA, at the request of their members, GTS and Concord Genuity, who they have regulation over, then created a market for the security that was never meant to trade. So they're already doing like a whole doublespeak thing here. Like, well, if they want to trade, they shouldn't have created a security to trade. They didn't. Oh my God, FINRA. How are you so bad at this? I'm sure any member of Congress who has no familiarity whatsoever with anything that's been going on, read this like, oh, I got enough for me as an answer. But it is total bullshit. 100% bullshit is what they're doing right here. FINRA's role in regulating the OTC market, therefore, is based on its responsibility for regulating the activities of its member broker-dealers, not issuers, investors, or the wider marketplace. The federal securities law requires that FINRA's rule remove impediments to and perfect the mechanism of free and open market, among other things. The SEC's oversight of FINRA includes reviewing its rules, which generally must be filed with the SEC, published by the SEC for public comment, and formally approved by the SEC before becoming effective. Through this process, FINRA has adopted numerous rules that relate to the market activity of its members, including rules governing trade, reporting, reviewing, corporate actions, and halting, quoting, and trading in the OTC market. These rules include FINRA Rule 662. This rule requires FINRA member broker-dealers to report executed transactions in OTC equity securities to FINRA's trade reporting facility. FINRA disseminates last sale information regarding those transactions on a real-time basis to provide investors and market participants with transparency regarding transactions, share prices for OTC equity securities. Who cares? This has nothing to do with the problems. The problems are twofold. One, you started trading in the first place without any approval whatsoever from the company or the issuers. Two, when it came to stopping trading, you stopped it 2 days early so that shorts could not be closed out. Who cares if you are like, this is the left price for a stock? We don't care. So, FINRA Rule 6440. This rule requires FINRA member broker-dealers to halt quoting and trading activities when FINRA determines. Okay. in accordance with the rule that doing so is necessary to protect investors' the public interest. These circumstances include whether FINRA determines that an extraordinary event has occurred or is ongoing, and that has had a material effect on the market for the security, or has caused or has the potential to cause major disruption to the marketplace or significant uncertainty in the settlement and clearance process. Neat. Except when you halted this stock, claiming that there'd be a problem with the settlement and clearance process and that an extraordinary event was ongoing, the broker-dealers had already read your previous corporate actions and said, oh, no new investors shall be able to buy on December 9th or December 12th. We're moving it to position close only. They'd already decided that because they read your corporate action and they know what T+2 means. But you halted it anyway for no reason whatsoever, causing settlement issues. So your goal, which was to make sure there weren't settlement issues, resulted in settlement issues. Why? Because there are hundreds of millions of shares out there that cannot be rectified with the paper certificates offered by NextBridge. So you fucked up. Not FINRA, not MMTLP, not the SEC, not the broker dealers. You, FINRA, you fucked up. FINRA Rule 6490. SEC Rule 10b-17 generally requires issuers of publicly traded securities to give notice to the Securities Exchange for corporate actions involving illicit security, and FINRA for corporate actions involving unlisted securities. FINRA Rule 6490 sets forth FINRA's process for reviewing corporate action submissions required under SEC Rule 10b-17. Corporate actions are the responsibility of the issuer. FINRA does not initiate, approve, or conduct the underlying corporate action that the issuer is taking. FINRA's role is limited to reviewing and processing the submission and announcing the corporate action to market participants unless the corporate action documentation is found to be deficient under Rule 6490, in which case FINRA may determine not to process the corporate action. Okay. The S1 filed by Metamaterial to establish NextBridge Hydrocarbons was done so in July of 2022. It went through 4 edits and resubmissions over the course of those 6 months. It was finally approved November 18th of 2022. So for the previous 6 months, 4 months. Sorry, I'm getting my math wrong. 4 months, FINRA had the copies of the S1. They knew what was going to be happening, right? And then it got approved by SEC. So the SEC said, boom, done, do your thing. And so the company announced, hey, we're doing our thing. It took FINRA 3 weeks to finally issue the corporate action on the daily list. And the first time they did it, they got it wrong. And then they'd issue a second one 2 days later with the correct language because it confused the whole deleted and canceled thing. So FINRA knew. And because right here, FINRA's role is limited to reviewing and processing submission and announcing corporate action to market participants. So they reviewed, they processed, and they announced, right? And then they say, unless the corporate action documentation is found to be deficient under Rule 6490, in which case FINRA may determine not to process the corporate action. So they processed the corporate action. They wrote it wrong the first time. 2 days later, on December 8th, they wrote it right the second time. And then that night, they freaked the fuck out and they halted trading with a U3 halt. At midnight, East Coast, December 9th. So not only had they approved it, not only had they reviewed it, they posted it, screwed up, posted it again, and then like 10 hours later went, and halted all trading. Like, if the corporate action was deficient, you would not have posted it. Because right here, they limited the role of reviewing and processing the submission. And if it's deficient, they would not process the corporate action, meaning they wouldn't post it. But instead, they posted it twice. Once with the wrong language, second time with the correct language, and then 10 hours later freaked out. So you violated your own Rule 6490. You said, we processed it, we read it, it was cool, so we posted it. And then we halted it because the corporate action was wrong. Why didn't you tell them? If the corporate action was wrong, why'd you post it? Why don't you say, hey, make the data record 2 days after this, not the 12th or whatever, right? So Why didn't you just be like, we'll fix this and we'll just fix it, rather than be like, oh my God, halt. All I have to do is make the distribution happen 2 days later, according to FINRA's claims about the T+2 being a problem. That's all I had to do. But no, they halted, causing all sorts of problems and headaches for them, Congress, FBI, SEC, investors. FINRA, Rule 6432. Like Rule 6490, 6432 addresses FINRA member broker-dealer compliance with SEC rule. In this case, SEC Rule 15C211. The SEC Rule 15C211 sets forth requirements for broker-dealers that publish quotations in quotation medium for OTC securities. In some cases, quoting can be initiated following the filing of Form 211 with FINRA. However, SEC Rule 15C211 includes several exceptions, of which permits a broker-dealer to publish quotations on behalf of a customer that represents the customer's unsolicited interests other than the company insiders or affiliates, unless specified issuer information is currently and publicly available. If an exception applies, the broker-dealer is not required to file Form 211 with FINRA. Okay, this one's kind of a mouthful here. So, what they're saying is that normally you file to Form 211. And FINRA go, oh, it looks like the issuer wants to trade the stock. We're cool. They trade. In this case, talking about an exception, which permits a broker-dealer to publish quotations. So two people want to trade with each other. In this case, GTS and Canaccord Genuity, two horribly evil market makers. And they want to trade. And so if they want to trade, then you know what? Tough shit. It's going to trade. That's basically what they're saying here. But in it, publish quotation interests other than the company's insider affiliates unless specified issuer information is current and publicly available. The information that they used for this was not current. So they violated their own Rule 6432 because the information that was submitted on behalf of GTS and Canaccord Genuity was 10 years old, referring to a company that no longer exists and a board that has not been a member of that company for a decade. That's so right here. Information is current, nope, and publicly available. Yes, it was publicly available because it was 10-year-old information filed with the SEC, but they didn't use anything that was current. So they violated their own Rule 6432 when they allowed the trading to begin in the first place. Okay, overview of FINRA's actions related to MMTLP. Initial trading and quoting at MMTLP. The answer to the question of whether a security can be publicly traded under the federal securities laws is governed by the Securities Act and SEC rules. When OTC equity security trades, one of FINRA's roles is to assign a security symbol in connection with trade reporting by FINRA's members. Under the current process, FINRA assigns a symbol only if certain minimum requirements concerning the security are met, including, for example, that the issuer has attained a QSIP number for a security. So basically saying it has a QSIP so it can trade. Nextbridge has a QSIP. It can't trade. So, okay. After Meta Materials obtained a QSIP number for its Series A preferred shares, the security became DTC eligible. But it was an untradeable security. This QSIP there was just so that they could identify it, not so that it could trade. And FINRA knows this. FINRA assigned the MMTLP symbol to security in 2021 so that a broker-dealer could report and execute transaction security. Cool, it wasn't supposed to trade. In the SEC filing, it said this is untradeable. But you traded it anyway, creating a market for this thing, thus creating the headache we have today. So every step along the way, FINRA, you fucked up and caused a problem for everyone. In doing so, FINRA did not approve or determine when broker-dealers or customers may begin trading security. You literally just did. They're like, we'll determine if security can trade. If the security started trading, but we didn't have anything to do with when it could trade. Once security trades, FINRA disseminates that last pricing information. So they're like, we can't do anything about it. It started trading, and so we just disseminated the price. That's it. Other than the fact that they applied to you to start trading, and you were like, thumbs up, bro. Okay. Member brokerages facilitate public price transparency. FINRA did not receive Form 211 in connection with quoting an MMTLP because the broker-dealers that were publishing quotation of MMTLP relied upon the exception rule, SEC Rule 15C211, that permits publication of quotation for unsolicited customer orders with specified conditions. And the specified conditions are current and public information. There was public information, it was not current, and that's what they did, so they violated your Rules 6432, and 15C211. So you fucked up, FINRA. And when Metro came to you and said, hey, you fucked up, you're like, too late. It's trading. So you can't be, we're following the rules and then have glaringly obvious violations of those exact rules that your job as a regulator is supposed to go, wait a minute, this information isn't up to date. It happens to be 10 years old. And it names a whole bunch of insiders that are no longer with the company. Why didn't you do your job? FINRA, do your job, and these wouldn't be problems to begin with. FINRA understands that because Torchlight Energy Resources Incorporated publicly stated in its SEC filing did not expect a market to develop for Series A preferred shares, confusion exists as to whether the issuer needed to approve commencement of trading in MTOP. They didn't just say that didn't expect a market to develop. They said these shares will not be tradable. These shares cannot be traded. That's what they said in their SEC document. We don't expect the market to develop. They said this shall not trade. And John Berta has posted information plenty of times. Okay. Confusion exists as to whether issuer needed to approve the commencement of trading in MMTOP. The answer to the question of whether a security can be publicly traded under the federal securities laws is governed by the Securities Act, SEC rules, not the expectations of the issuer. As noted above, generally, an issuer's approval is not needed for a security to trade OTC, although an issuer may take steps to limit such trading under the federal securities laws. Metamaterials do not appear to have taken any steps necessary to restrict trading in MMTOP. Other than they filed in their SEC documents that this stock shall not trade. But, other than that, they didn't seem to do anything to make sure that didn't happen. NextBridge MMTOP corporate action. As discussed above, when a company decides to engage in corporate action that affects an unlisted security that trades only in the OTC market, SEC Rule 10b-17 requires that the company submit notice of specified types of corporate action to FINRA. FINRA reviews the submission pursuant to Rule 6490. Unless FINRA determines that submission is deficient under Rule 6490, FINRA provides public notice of the corporate action on its website via the daily list. Yes. So FINRA determined submission was not deficient and posted it. And then a day later, realized it was deficient and halted trading. You can't have it both ways there, FINRA. Either you did your job right the first time, or you didn't. It appears you didn't. Broker-dealers and professional vendors historically have been the primary audience for daily lists, which contains technical terminology and information that broker-dealers need to perform tasks concerning their activities in securities such as adjusting stock quote, price, and sizes. Example, the result of a distribution or stock split. Okay, it was 2 sentences. It's not technical information. It was, hey, this security is going to stop trading on the 12th, and then everyone's going to pay per shares on the 14th. Ta-da! Oh yeah, and then the ticker will be deleted on the 13th. Whatever. As was required under SEC Rule 10b-17, for issuers with class of publicly traded securities, Metamaterials notified FINRA of its intention to undertake the NextBridge MMTOP corporate action. Following FINRA's review under Rule 6490, FINRA published a notice on the daily list. So FINRA is admitting they approved the corporate action. They did not find it deficient in any way, shape, or form. December 6th, 2022, modified December 8th, because they used the wrong language on December 6th, so they had to use the correct language on December 8th. Announcing that consistent with information provided by Metamaterials, NextBridge shares will be distributed to those MMTLP shareholders with settled positions as of December 12th, 2022. The daily list announcement further stated that any purchases after December 8th, 2022, i.e. those with trades due to settle on or after December 13th, 2022, would not be entitled to receive NextBridge shares in distribution, and the MLTP symbol will be deleted effective December 13th, 2022. Okay? Yes, we know that, which is why brokers were going to position close only on the 9th and the 12th. Like, this whole T+2 thing that you explained, that if it had not settled by the 13th, they would not get their shares, that's why they were not going to allow anybody to open new positions on the 9th or the 13th. I have a screenshot from my Fidelity account saying, just to let you know, the 9th and 12th is going to position close only. This is before you offer the halt. Like, the broker dealers understood what was going on. The public understood what was going on. The hedge funds understood what was going on. Why did FINRA not understand what was going on? It was your own corporate action, ding dong. Okay. FINRA deleted the MMTLP symbol because, pursuant to the NextBridge corporate action following distribution of MMTLP shares of NextBridge common stock, Metamaterials was canceling preferred shares that had traded under the MMTLP symbol. Because the MMTLP shares have been canceled by the issuer, they can no longer be traded and symbol can no longer be reinstated. There's another goofy thing. So, yes, the corporate action said they were going to get rid of the symbol on 13th of December. FINRA never got rid of the symbol until I think it was March. And then, after they finally did get rid of it, they fudged their own documents to make it, and backdated to make it look like they got rid of it back in December. we've got plenty of screenshots showing that they didn't actually delete the ticker until months later. So they didn't even follow their own corporate action. And then they falsified documents to make it look like they actually followed through on what they should be doing. Okay. So many sighs. The MMTLP trading halt. Another of FINRA's rules is overseeing the market for OTC equity securities is exercising authority to direct member firms to halt quoting and trading activities in a security when FINRA deems that such action is necessary and appropriate to protect investors and ensure a fair and orderly marketplace. FINRA made such a determination and on December 9, 2022, halted trading MMTLP pursuant to FINRA Rule 6440. So, after FINRA had reviewed the corporate action, and they said, this poses no problems whatsoever. Let's post it. Hours later, at midnight, December 9th, 2022, FINRA freaked the fuck out, issued only the third U3 halt on domestic security in the history of the markets, and halted this stock. Because the corporate action they approved suddenly wasn't something they should have approved. So they didn't do their job right the first time, they didn't do their job right the second time, and they apparently didn't do their job right the third time. Consistent with standard practice, FINRA provided notice of MMTLP trading halt on the morning of December 9th to all market participants simultaneously through the publication channels of communication normally used for such actions. No market participants were provided with advance of the trading halt. Cool. So? And I don't believe you. But anyway, among FINRA's concerns resulting in the trading halt were the fact that trades executed after December 8th would not have settled in time for the purchaser to become the holder of the MMTLP shares by December 12th. We know that. We knew that. Your corporate action you approved said that, which is why everyone went to position close only, you morons. Oh my God, it's just so frustrating. What double-speaking bullshitters these people are. Settle your chi, Houston. Okay. Only record holders on December 12th would be recorded as eligible to receive the next bridge shares in that distribution. Yes, that's what position close only means. It means the shorts have to close their position and give the shares to the people of record so the positions are closed and they're no longer these fake little IOUs in their accounts so that they can receive their paper shares. No one is opening up a new position whatsoever on the 9th or the 12th. So the entire reason you claimed doing the halt was never going to happen in the first place. No new positions were going to be opened regardless if you halted or not. In addition, based on determination made by the issuer, NextBridge common stock would not be DTC eligible, raising uncertainty regarding how transactions executed after December 8th would settle in an efficient, orderly manner. Who cares? It's position close only. Had MMTLP continued trading after December 8th, there was a possibility that investors buying MMTLP during that time period may not have realized that MMTLP shares they purchased were about to be canceled by metamaterials. They wouldn't be allowed to purchase them because it was position close only. Any purchased MMTLP shares might not be received before they were canceled, and they wouldn't be purchasing any. Oh my God, it'd be just short positions. Buying the stock to close out their short positions. That's it. No new positions would have been opened. Only old short positions have been closed. They would not be recorded on December 12th as MMTLP holders eligible to receive NextBridge common stock in distribution. Because you halted, there are hundreds of millions of more shares out there than there should be, which means those people never got their shares to begin with, you dorks. FINRA was concerned that an inequitable and unfair result could occur because these investors purchasing MMTLP after December 8th, which was no one because it was position close only, will be purchasing an asset that would soon cease to exist with no entitlement to replacement security as part of the NextBridge MMTLP corporate action. But no one was going to be buying that. FINRA issued the trading halt to prevent these harms from occurring. No, FINRA issued the trading halt because those harms were never going to occur in the first place because no one was going to be allowed to open a new position. And you looked at the level twos and saw that the stock price was going to shoot to thousands of dollars a share within just a few trades and suddenly create liabilities of trillions of dollars for those who had made short positions. Consistent with FINRA's authority under the trading halt rule, which allows FINRA to halt trading when necessary to protect investors and the public. I was not protected. You did not protect me. You did not protect the general public. No one here was protected. The only thing that happened was people were harmed by your trading halt because A, they couldn't sell their security, B, the settlement was a mess, and C, you just suck. Question regarding naked short selling or counterfeit shares, MMTLP. A short sale is the sale of a security by one party, the seller, that does not own the security at the time of the sale, or a sale where the seller delivers a borrowed security to the purchaser. Short selling is not illegal. Indeed, the SEC has determined that short selling can provide the market with important benefits of market liquidity and pricing efficiency. SEC regulation shows the primary rule that governs broker-dealers who engage in short selling activity with their own account or the account of others. I mean, short selling, there are exceptions, but naked short selling is definitely illegal. So short selling legal, naked short selling is not legal. When reporting trades, regulation show requires broker-dealers to identify short sales. Okay. Regulation show also generally requires broker-dealer to perform a locate prior to engaging in the short sale, i.e. the broker-dealer must have a reasonable grounds to believe that the security can be borrowed so that it can be delivered upon settlement and does not fail. A failure to deliver FTD. A naked short sale is generally understood to mean a short sale where the seller does not borrow or arrange to borrow the securities in time to make a delivery within the standard settlement period, resulting in an FTD. Generally, regulation show does not permit naked short selling except under limited circumstances. And the limited circumstances is carrying a giant load on its shoulders, because the limited circumstances is anyone who is a licensed market maker can sell naked without ever having to locate or close their position ever. Da-da-da! And hedge funds can rent that ability from the market maker. They can literally be like, hey, can I pay you this X amount of money and borrow your powers as a market maker? Or the market maker can sell a whole bunch of that stuff, and doing a weird equity swap, the liability then falls upon the short hedge fund. There's lots of loopholes that are created here. And so this whole oh God, I lost my spot here. Oh, limited circumstances is just a huge, giant, like, just a couple of times it can happen. No, it happens constantly. I mean, a big market maker like Citadel has admitted on their books $100 billion in shares they naked shorted and have never provided. While there is no identifier in trade reporting data to specifically identify naked short sales, that actually kind of is, because when creating this short sale, the hedge fund, the investment bank, the broker dealer, the market maker, there's a box that says, hey, where are these shares, where are the identified shares coming from? And we have numerous people who have worked for all four of those entities who said sometimes they just smash the keyboard or put a period, and then the computer system's like, good enough for me. So somewhere there's a record in all these transactions, probably in blue sheets or something similar, showing exactly who the identified shares supposedly belong to. And if that information, if you were to go through the computer system and look for that information, how many of those things would just be like random numbers and letters punched into a keyboard and not an actual, like, John Smith over at Solomon Smith Barney has 100,000 shares that he promised to me if I need them. Like, that's not what's happening. So, okay. If there's no significant naked short selling in security, FINRA would expect to see indicators of this activity in various data sources, such as maybe the thresholds list, indicator like that, like something that's on the thresholds list for like 40 days before you halted the trading. Would that be an indicator of some kind there, FINRA? Perhaps, maybe. In particular, because naked short selling is marked by the inability of the seller to deliver securities upon settlement, significant short selling is often accompanied by a high number of FTDs, which was exactly happening in MMTLP. FINRA has found no evidence there's significant short selling in MMTLP, except for the fact it was on the threshold list for 45 days because of significant failure to delivers, thus naked short selling. Other than that, there was no significant indicators that was happening. Relative to the total outstanding shares, there were not a high number of FTDs in MMTLP for the trading days prior to the trading halt. SEC published FTDs as of December 9th were very low, 215,238 shares out of 165 million. Okay, so the way the thresholds, or the FTD list is supposed to work is it's cumulative. So if you've got 100,000 on this day and 50,000 the next day, that doesn't mean 150,000 aggregate. It means that the total number of shares on this day were 100,000 and they bought back 50,000 of them, returned them the next day. In this case, like the last day is only 215,238. The problem is that those FTDs get erased regularly by two things. One, the market maker exception rule doesn't list at all what market makers had contributed to that. And B, if there's a swap, a debt for equity swap, at all that occurs, it wipes out the FTD and resets the entire clock. So all that they've proven is that market makers can sell the crap out of this thing and not report the FTD list. And 2, anyone else who naked sells can do a crazy swap and it will delete it from the FTD list. It'll be like, it's settled or something. I don't know. Other transactions happen. It reset the entire thing. So they're ignoring the fact that there are workarounds to this number right here. And a lot of the FTDs, what ends up happening is you have a failure to trade. So failure to settle. So someone over in this brokerage sells a share to someone over in this brokerage, and the money transfers this way. The share doesn't transfer that way. And so this broker goes, oh shit. And they reach around somewhere inside of their brokerage and find a customer's that share and they steal it from them. And they put a little IOU in there and they send it over. So then that doesn't get recorded as an FTD because they located the share. But what happens is this person over here never gets made good. The broker doesn't suddenly force whoever sold that share to go find another one. It just sits there as this naked short in their account that was borrowed from them without their permission. So that's what's happening. So a lot of these FTD numbers are fudged on that factor. In addition, while SEC published FTD data is not available for transaction MMTLP due to settle on December 12th, FINRA estimates the aggregate number of FTDs on that date would also have been very low, a small number, 0.03% MMTLP shares outstanding. The short position MMTLP as December 12th, 2022 would potentially result in FTDs due to the fact that FINRA member broker-dealers had stock borrows on margin securities available to cover most 100% of open short positions. No, they didn't. A limited number of FTDs at member firms together with other factors such as the availability of shares, stock borrows on margin securities, to cover almost 100% of the open short positions on December 12th. The successful distribution of NextBridge shares, which was not successful in any way, shape, or form, according to public statements by the issuer, and the low amount of short interest positions and MMTLP FINRA members have relative to total shares outstanding as of December 12th, do not indicate that there was excessive naked short selling near the end of the trading, resulting in counterfeit shares, or that the distribution of NextBridge common stock to many MMTLP shareholders was disrupted by such activity. There are tens of thousands of people who own the stock who cannot register their shares because their broker does not have enough paper shares for them to do that. They just don't. So this whole thing saying everything was successful, all worked perfectly, did not. So quit lying. Request for an audited share count of NextBridge MMTLP shares. FINRA is unable to conduct the requested certified audit consolidated count of shares that were held by all U.S. and foreign financial institutions described in your letter. We aren't asking you to do all foreign ones. We're asking you to do U.S. ones. As we have previously noted, FINRA lacks the authority and data necessary to regulatorily obtain such information. They do not lack the authority. They can literally go to the broker dealers and say, how many of these shares do you have? That's it. They can do that. Pursuant to the Exchange Act, FINRA's regulatory authority is limited to overseeing the conduct of FINRA members. That's what we want you to do. Oversee the conduct of the FINRA members, member firms, and their associated persons. Transfer agents, which are regulated by SEC and not FINRA, are responsible for maintaining issuer security holder records and have responsibilities concerning reconciliation and safekeeping of securities. Whoop-de-doo. We're not asking about that. FINRA also does not have regulatory authority over all the entities, domestic or foreign, that could act as custodians or agents holding securities for others and be reflected as such on the books of the transfer agent. FINRA understands, based on public statements issued by NextBridge, that its transfer agent AST has distributed all shares related to NextBridge MMTLP corporate action either directly to stockholders that held their shares directly registered at AST or to shareholders, bank, broker, or nominee representatives. This is not what we're asking about. Them being like, hey, we distributed our 167 million shares. We did our job, our part. And then people at their brokers and the banks and et cetera being like, hey, I never got my shares because my broker got 24 million of them and there's 60 million of us who think we have shares. So yeah, the distribution went the way it should have, but the settlement did not. In addition, FINRA does not currently possess the data that presumably would be required to conduct a certified audit consolidated share counts. That's because you haven't asked the brokers for the data, ding dong. Your job is to go, hey, everyone who's a registered broker under me, tell me how many shares you have of the stock, and we'll do a count that way. But you're like, but my hands are tied because I don't have the information. Ask for it, dummy. That's your job. You're the regulator. So ask them. How is that so hard? It's your fucking job. Some have assumed that blue sheet data could be used to conduct an audit of the NextBridge MMTLP share count. It can, because it can show you who was selling what and if they ever bought to close their positions or borrowed or etc. At FINRA and SEC examination investigation teams use blue sheet requests to obtain detailed transaction data from clearing broker dealers for a specific security or specified dates. Okay, cool. Show them. Blue sheet data reflects transactions made by individuals or entities that executed trades in specific security on specific dates. It does not identify the position held in a specific security on a specific date by a person or entity. But it can if you have enough of them, right? If you're only looking at one day, okay, that might not tell you the information. But if you look at all the days, you can go clickety click, 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 clack with a calculator and add it up. Then you can be like, hey, blue sheet data, identify for me the days that this particular broker, dealer, market maker, etc., made trades to either buy or sell the security. And if you find that the market maker, say, I don't know, GTS, is selling 100 million of these shares a month and never buying one, then you know that they're naked short selling. And that can cause problems when it comes time to settlement. But if you don't release this information and we can't add it up and look at what these broker dealers are doing, or the market makers, or the hedge funds, how are we going to know if they ever bother closing their positions other than just selling a bunch of shares naked into the market? It does not identify position held in specific security, specific date by entering it. Further, blue sheet data does not contain information about whether or how a short position was covered with a purchase or borrow shares, or whether the short sale is naked, whether there was a locate or if delivery occurred on settlement date. But it can give you an idea as to if they're selling naked or not, because literally, if they're selling 100 million shares a month of a security and never buying any, and that's more than what can be borrowed, then it gives you an idea if it's going to be naked or not. Nor does blue sheet data capture the share exchanges or dividends by issuers, because blue sheet data is requested for investigatory purposes. Okay, then investigate, dummy. FINRA does not voluntarily disclose this data to third parties except the SEC, other regulators, and law enforcement pursuant to specific targeted regulatory or law enforcement requests for the data. Okay, then request it. The other regulatory tools available to FINRA, example, Consolidated Audit Trail and FINRA's trade reporting facilities, also don't provide the data that would enable FINRA to perform a certified audit consolidated share count, as they also do not contain position information. But you can garner position information if you can see who is selling and never borrowing or never buying. FINRA understands that there continue to be questions. Receipt, NextBridge shares, NextBridge, blah, 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 corporate action distribution. FINRA understands that there continue to be questions regarding whether the right number of NextBridge shares were distributed to investors, as FINRA has discussed previously. FINRA does not have a role in distributing securities as part of corporate action, and FINRA does not have regulatory authority over issuers or transfer agents. However, based on publicly available information reported by NextBridge in connection with NextBridge MMTLP corporate action, MetaMaterials distributed 165,472,241 of the outstanding shares of NextBridge common stock on a one-for-one basis to shareholders who own MMTLP as of the close of business December 12, 2022. Yes. Some of us got them. Others did not. NextBridge has stated that the shares were distributed to NextBridge transfer agent and registrar, AST, which then distributed these shares either directly to MMTL shareholders whose shares were directly registered AST, or to shareholders, bank, broker, or nominee representatives. Thus, there does not appear to be a disparity between the number of MMTLP shares the company understood to be outstanding and the number of NextBridge shares distributed to MMTLP shareholders on a one-for-one basis. Except there is. Because we got the data from TradeStation showing that there was a 204% short position on that stock. We understand that some investors are nonetheless concerned that their broker-dealers have not received their NextBridge shares, or that the information provided by their broker regarding shares reflected in their account is not accurate. We have encouraged investors to reach out to their brokerage firms, understand the status of their shares, or discuss their options. Why don't you reach out, since you're the regulator? Why is it up to the individual investors, 64,000 of them, to get random 64,000 points of information from all the broker dealers when you can get it all in one phone call? Why is it up to us when you're the regulator? It's your fucking job. For example, investors may request to transfer shares to the transfer agent from the broker dealer's name to their name. The just transfer may take time to achieve and may involve fees. Yes, and that time may be infinity because they don't have the paper shares to do it because they ran out. If an investor makes such a request and their broker has not been willing to transfer their shares pursuant to the instructions, the investor should contact the broker to understand the status of their NextBridge shares. And if the broker does not provide a satisfactory explanation, the investor may submit an investor complaint to FINRA. which we have been doing for a year. And what have you done, FINRA? Oh, I said it's not my job to do this. Like, FINRA's basically saying, like, we can't do anything about the broker-dealers. And then if you have a problem, broker-dealer, contact us, and we won't do anything about it. We note that some of the discussion on social media has concerned circumstances where an investor was unable to direct register their NextBridge shares to the transfer agent because the investor's MMTLP shares have been loaned out by the broker. Example where the customer participated in fully paid lending program, earning a fee, lending securities, or perhaps if they just never participated in those things and they were lent out anyway. In such cases, MMTLP shares would likely have been loaned out to a short seller, delivered to the buyer in the short sale transaction, who would have credited the NextBridge shares. Okay, that's not how that works. So they could do a payment in lieu, cash-wise, but they can't deliver the share. So if you are participating in a lending program, right, and you lend your shares out, and a short seller then borrows them and sells them, right? So now that share went to the short seller and is now in the account of somebody else. And so when the distribution happens, that somebody else gets the share. The short seller does not get the share to distribute back to the person who lent it. They don't have it because there's only 165,417,000 of them, right? So what they'd have to do is they have to go into the market, find that share, buy it, and then deliver it. But you halted the market, so they couldn't do that, right? So you're conflating how this process works and purposely confusing members of Congress as if those short sellers can somehow obtain the share out of thin air when it never got distributed in the first place because they sold that share to somebody else and that person got it. So you're leaving an entire group of people while ever having settlement of their shares because you never allowed the closing of short positions to happen because you halted trading at midnight on December 9th. Stop sucking at your job, FINRA. Put somebody who can actually do it in there. Jesus Christ. Okay. In a securities lending transaction, the lender transfers the legal rights to the security to the borrower. Thus, the investor who held the settled long position in MMTLP on December 12th were holders entitled to receive shares in NextBridge as part of the NextBridge MLT corporate action, even if they received borrowed shares in settlement of the transaction. Yep. So the person who received the borrowed share got their tickets. The person who borrowed never got theirs, and the person who lent it out never got theirs. And the people who never asked to lend theirs out and were lent out anyway, because brokers do that all the time to make that settlement happen to avoid FTDs. Okay. Even if they receive borrowed share settlement in the transaction, the existence of a borrow by seller does not impact the ownership rights of the purchaser. Conversely, the lender of those shares would not be entitled to receive the NextBridge shares directly from the issuer. However, pursuant to lending agreement, the lender typically has a claim for the NextBridge shares against the borrower. Yep. Customers whose MMTLP shares have been on loan as of December 12th should contact their brokerage firm and gain an understanding of the agreements that govern the loan and discuss their options. Are those that, never agreed to lend out their shares and were lent out anyways, and they never got paid for it because it was a giant IOU put in their account. NextBridge filed Form S1 registration statement with the SEC to register issuance of its common stock. Oh, crap, I'm running out of time. How much more do I have to go here? Okay, we're almost done. All right. Statement with SEC to register the issuance of its common stock in connection with the NextBridge MLTLP corporate action, which became effective November 8, 2022. According to the prospectus, NextBridge is an independent public reporting company. The shares are publicly tradable under federal law and are widely held. However, today it is very difficult for NextBridge shareholders to trade their shares because NextBridge has not taken the necessary steps to support the development of a secondary market, steps its predecessor undertook with respect to the MMTLP shares. Yes. They did not create a secondary market. So you're saying that the predecessor undertook that with the result of MMTLP, which was at Mat 1, but then before you say they didn't take the proper steps to make sure it couldn't trade. So which is it there, bud? When NextBridge registered its common stock, it stated that it would not seek to make the common stock DTC eligible. NextBridge acknowledged that the absence of DTC eligibility would hamper trading because DTC eligibility enables the central clearance and settlement of securities transactions. Unless NextBridge takes steps that would support trading in its common stock, trading will continue to be difficult, including trades that close out short positions. Thus, the lack of public market for NextBridge's common stock is a result of NextBridge's decisions, and NextBridge can rectify the challenges investors are facing by taking the appropriate steps to support development of secondary market. So basically saying we halted it so that people couldn't close their positions, but it's actually NextBridge's fault for issuing paper shares in the first place when they made it so that they would have to force close positions those last 2 days of trading, but we halted those, but it's still NextBridge's fault. While FINRA cannot force NextBridge to take these steps, FINRA has engaged with NextBridge leadership, including to explain ways in which the company could support investors' ability to trade NextBridge shares. FINRA stands ready to take steps that are in line with its role in the OTC markets, consistent with its authority and processes and procedures that apply to all potential quotation and trading activity in OTC equity securities. Forward-looking steps to improve OTC trading for investors. FINRA is committed to continuous improvement in all its regulatory operations in order to further its mission, including by learning from events such as those that occurred with respect to MTLP. You guys have learned nothing whatsoever. All you've learned is like, oh crap, we fucked up, and now we got to start lying to Congress to try and cover it up. For example, FINRA is considering the increase of self-directed retail participation in the markets and concerns regarding investors' use of social media sources to make investment decisions. Social media has nothing to do with you guys fucking up. It's just a scapegoat for you. In addition, FINRA is considering whether any changes may be appropriate to long-standing communication protocols around corporate action announcements, particularly where the corporate action appears to be the subject of significant retail interest through social media activity. Yeah, how dare they read the things we approved and publish and then think those things are going to happen? FINRA also has been asked whether statutory changes may be improve investing in OTC equity securities for investors. Specific to this situation, the federal securities laws do not currently require the issuers of a class of equity securities that are publicly offered or otherwise widely held take steps necessary to facilitate the electronic clearance and settlement of transactions through a registered clearing agency, which in turn would support investors' ability to trade securities. As a result, even where an issuer's securities are SEC registered or the issuer is a public reporting company under SEC rules, as a practical matter, investors may be unable to buy or sell the securities. This outcome can be problematic where investors initially purchased a security for which there was an active trading market, but due to corporate action and through no action of their own, such investors subsequently hold a different security for which there's no trading market. They're trying to blame NextBridge again on this thing. Like, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't let people not take companies private. Statutory change in this area could remove impediments to investors' ability to transfer their shares and alleviate the concerns that exist today with trading NextBridge common stock, including closing out short positions. Or you could just have never halted, and the brokers could have gone through the position close only, and the short positions would have been closed. Conclusion, FINRA is committed to fulfilling our statutory mission of protecting investors and promoting market integrity in a manner that facilitates vibrant capital markets. We share your concerns regarding investors who have complained that they cannot trade their NextBridge common stock in the absence of trading market. Kids just so purposely are being obtuse. We're willing to continue to engage with you in congressional offices on this matter. If you have any further questions or need any additional information, FINRA officials would be happy to meet with you and your staff again. Please don't hesitate to contact me or your staff may contact our Senior Vice President of Government Affairs, Greg Dean. Thank you again for your letter and for the work that you and your staff on this issue. Boom. And then they have all the people they listed to. They've got their frequently asked questions as things here, which we've gone through in the past as total fucking bullshit. Anywho, obfuscation, doublespeak, bullshit. That's this entire letter is. They're culpable every step of the way, and somehow they're like, this is the rule we have that we didn't pay attention to or follow in any way, shape, or form. And again and again and again and again and again and again. Very quickly, I'm going to nail, there's some super chats, so I was going to just do those, and I got to go. So I'm sorry, I'll get any questions you have, we'll do on tomorrow's show, and we'll get those then. So Crayon Green gifted 5 memberships. Thank you so much. So Antonio Baez, Al Smart, Kaka Capo, Go Cook the Capo, Keith Dixon, and Jethro. Good job, guys. Bill Coyne, unfortunately, nothing will change unless we join in March. It's simple. Want to work at a crappy job the rest of your life, or retire now on the beach for life? Complaining on changes nothing. But if we can get this complaints in front of some of the members of Congress, that can help a lot. Sorry, members of Congress, I did cuss a lot and do the jerk off symbol, but that's the only appropriate response I can think of. Anxiety Lord, you just start a new live stream after your breakdown explanation, so this will be a standalone video. I'm going to do a show tomorrow, so we'll get that done then. All right, everybody, thank you so much. I've got to run. We will see you guys tomorrow for a regular show. Cool? All right, and I'll answer all the questions then. I'm sorry I didn't get to them here. Hopefully you guys had good conversations, and enjoy your evening, and I'll see you tomorrow. Oh, I got to hit this thing. Where's the, there we go.